Welcome to Lifestyles of the Strange and Exotic Random Book Review. Today I will be reviewing Fairy Haven and the Quest for the Wand by Gail Carson Levine. And I just sort of picked it up on a whim because I set myself up for like 70 books this year. That'll make it. And I've read 54 or 55 of them so far on my Goodreads challenge. So I picked it up to kind of have an easy read. And this was a bit more complicated than I thought it was going to be. And it's a Disney Fairies book. The temptation to wave a wand and get the things you've always wanted, the things you couldn't achieve any other way, is hard to withstand. It's a very strange book. Because I was kind of thinking, okay, it's going to be done, I'm going to read in 5 minutes. It's a kid's book, not too much brain power. It's the second, apparently, it's the sequel to another book, in this thrilling sequel to Fairy Dust and the Quest for the Egg, the mermaid swoop is set afloat to fairy heaven. So you have, like, mermaids and the fairies don't like the mermaids, and this particular mermaid really don't like the fairies. So I'm not quite sure if that's all kind of in the first book, but what's here, it does kind of stand alone. It just sort of vaguely refers to, why this particular mermaid is kind of ticked off at fairies in general. So it doesn't rely heavily on the previous book. The artwork's pretty neat, though. The artwork is by David Christian. Very Froud styled. So I did enjoy the artwork. I think that's Tinkerbell. It's either that or the dude fairy that has a thing for Tinkerbell. That's the mermaid layer. So yeah, I like the style. That's Tinkerbell under her little thing. I don't know quite what age range this is supposed to be for. I'm reading it, and I'm a fairly decent reader. That's sort of one of my skill sets, and I'm kind of reading it like, how the hell's a kid gonna grasp this? There's a weird writing style this person has where the way it's written, it's like the fairies will like cut in at the end of a sentence and like finish each other's sentences, and it's like all the way through the book, and it's like, is this a single character talking? Is this character talking over this other character? I mean, it would be, I suppose, sort of a fairy trait. I don't know. It was just a very confusing, strange way of writing. About that, let's see. The story, though, is pretty interesting once you can get past that whole weird writing style. It's a pretty good moral on greed, basically, and wanting, which is basically greed. And it has a particular mermaid is ticked off at the Neverland fairies, and it doesn't really specify she's mad at the one particular fairy, which I guess promised she wanted a comb and wanted to trade a wand for the comb. She got the comb, but she never brought back the wand, and the mermaid got pissed off and decided to flood the fairy home, which kind of justified. You broke a promise, what the hey. And so they find this wand, and there's a whole group of fairies that are like, okay? They're like giant fairies, apparently, I don't know. So they find this wand, they got to pick the wand, but the wand they picked was a bit screwy in the wand brain, and it would make, very similar to if you've seen the very third Hobbit, where the king of the dwarves there gets sort of gold sick. It's that sort of sickness where the wand kind of, wish fulfillment sickness, basically, and all the fairies are kind of like drawn to the wand and wanting to do wishes, and then they do strange wishes and wishing against each other, and it's just like chaos in some sense. So it's very interesting how they kind of encompass that lesson of restraint. It does have some like dark moments. You actually lose a fairy at one point, but it happens so quickly. They just sort of mentioned that one of the fairies drowned in the flood, so there is sort of that like okay, so, like I said, I was expecting a lot, I was expecting a kid's book. So, it's a lot more mature and darker than I expected. So, again, not quite sure who it was supposed to. If it's young adult, it doesn't really say. Just says Disney Press, copyright 2007. So, if you like fairies and have a bit more mature taste, I would recommend this. The writing style is very strange, and you might, unless you're familiar with this particular author, and that's the norm, I do not know. But it was a quick read. I read it in a couple of hours. It was an evening read. So, this was Fairy Haven, a sequel to Fairy Dust and the Quest for the Egg. Yes, Fairy Dust and the Quest for the Egg. So, I shall read, in this thrilling sequel to Fairy Dust and the Quest for the Egg, the mermaid Soup has sent a flood to Fairy Haven. Water talent fairy Ronnie must bring Soup a wand or the home tree and all the Never Fairies will be swept away. But wise Mother Dove isn't sure which is worse, the wand or the flood. Wand wishes, tantalizing wand wishes, are risky, and the most innocent wish can cause untold trouble, and not even Mother Dove knows what wand not even Mother Dove knows that wands have hearts and minds, kind hearts or cruel hearts, sympathetic minds, or minds filled with spite or mischief. So, yeah. I'm not a fan of Tinkerbell anyway, so. I would say if you like fairies, if you like Disney, go for it. So, thank you for watching. Do remember to comment, rate, share, and subscribe. There's always room for one more at the Strange and Exotic. Bye, and happy reading!